target by 4.7%, while expenditure was in an overall fiscal deficit of 3.2% of GDP. The primary balance on commitment basis recorded a surplus of 1.6% of GDP compared with the target of 1.0%. As at end of October, debt stock was 45 at end December 2024. The decline in the public debt was attributed to effective debt management, indicators including solvency, profitability, and this was driven by pickups in bank credits and contraction in the stock of NPLs. However, credit risks remain elevated, and looking ahead, policy implemented in the banking industry. Now, on the external, the current account improved significantly in the first 9 months of this year. Account improved significantly in the first 9 months of this year to a surplus of $3.8 billion compared to last year. The trade surplus in US dollars at the end of the third quarter and financial dollars and 2020. Reserves are projected going forward to increase even further by the year end. The reserve accumulation efforts have helped indeed to provide cushion for the currency, with the CD strengthening against the major trading currencies. In the year to 21st November 2025, the CD recorded an appreciation of 32.2% against the US dollar. Now, in taking the policy decision, the view of the committee was that overall macroeconomic conditions have broadly improved. Given the anticipated significant decline in inflation by the end of the year, the tight monetary policy stance, the significant buildup of reserves, which is providing anchor for exchange rate stability, the bank projects a continued stable inflation profile around the target and well into the first half of next year, 2026. This is against the backdrop that current risks in the outlook to shift the path of inflation away from target have moderated significantly. Hence, the prevailing high real interest rates provides some scope to ease policy to further boost the growth recovery efforts. So, given these considerations, the committee, by majority decision, voted to lower the monetary policy rate further by 350 basis points to 18.0%. The committee will continue to monitor developments and take the appropriate policy decisions to ensure sound and stable macroeconomic conditions. But we have one additional measure. In addition to the policy rate reduction, the bank will now return to the use of the 14-day bill as its main instrument for conducting open market operations.
Okay. My name is PC. You gave us a very strong indication that it's not even about present, but per your extrapolations and all those things, the outlook is very favorable. You don't see anything coming in to destabilize things. Do you think that the 300 basis point is enough based on all the data that you have put out and even the comments that you put out that give us an indication that things are quite strong and the outlook is solid? Couldn't we have gone down further as you try to deal with the challenge of the treasury bills issue and then the investor interest as well? Doc, are we also in a very strong position now that we can go and sleep when it comes to the city's performance, looking at your reserves. If the commodities change direction, just like what has happened to cocoa, and gold prices begin to drop, are we in a strong position to even manage it for the next maybe 6 months? Thank you.
Right. I think, George, you took someone's question away. So take the last question for this round, please. Yeah, Thomas.
Sorry. Good afternoon, Governor. My name is Toma Imere from Corporate Guardian Magazine. Governor, some months back, you said that we are expecting about 4 billion from cocoa inflows before the end of the year. Since that time, the spot price for cocoa has fallen from close to 8,000 to just over 5,000 currently. How would that affect the inflows which you stated were expecting from cocoa? And to what extent can the surge in gold inflows offset the expected shortage from lower prices on cocoa? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. Governor, you have the floor now. Thank you.
Okay. Do we take those? Or one more? We can take one more and then. Yes.
We already have 5.
I have 3 here.
Yes.
BFT, Joy FM, Toma. Who else?
George gave us 2.
Oh, George gave 2.
Yes.
Can I repeat it? Or
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So basically 3 on the 14th day. It's not actually a new thing. It has always been there. And the central bank has to be operating on the very short end of the market anyway. So it's just going back to where we are supposed to be operating. We used to have even the 7 days some time ago. So usually you find us making use of the very shorter, term bills, and that's exactly what we want to do. We want to discontinue the use of the 56-day and the likes. Remember, we even issued a 273-day instrument some time ago. But now we want to reset to the very shorter end of the market. And so that is what it is. It's not a new thing. We are just going back to where we are supposed to be operating from. George, I had one question, but I hear it's 2 in 1. Could we have cut further? I remember what we said at the last policy meeting. We are following the outlook for inflation. We believe that the 350 basis points is in line with our program and also consistent with the disinflation path. But that said, it's about assessing the risks on the upside to inflation and also the risks on the balance of the risk as a result. From where we stand, we believe that the 350 basis point is enough. Remember, we've now settled, very well within the target band, and we will be observing these going forward. If there's the need for the committee to take any additional policy measure, that will be currently. Right now, we believe that the 350 basis point is very much in line with the disinflation program. The rise in our reserves target, we have already achieved what under the fund program we should have achieved by the end of December. We are ahead of the curve. And that has been our emphasis. Reserve accumulation, reserve buildup, right? FX intermediation, very little by way of, even if we have to stem excessive volatility, that's the approach. And that will continue to be it. And that's the best way to shoot, to shore up against any changes in commodity prices, as you have indicated. Then Thomas spoke about cocoa prices. But if you check the data pack, the details are there on cocoa price movements. It suggests otherwise. Now, the inflows we have had through Cocoa Board so far shows that the inflows are doing very, 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 well. Year to date, from cocoa alone, we have received about 2.7 billion US dollars from cocoa. So cocoa is actually surprising us. What I said earlier was in respect of the entire cocoa season, not only from now till end of this year. I was projecting over the entire cocoa season. So cocoa is doing pretty well. We hope that the trend sustain. It, together with remittance inflows, will help to support the stability. Those are the ones I have. If there's another, you can remind me.
Yes, I think that's all. The second part of your answer answered what George was looking at. Basically, he was looking at whether the reserve accumulation will be supportive of the city going forward. And I think in what you submitted, you addressed it quite well. If you've just joined us, this 127th MPC press briefing of the Bank of Ghana. We also streaming live on Joy News, Business and Financial Times, NorvanReports, Ghana Web, and all the social media channels of the Bank of Ghana. So, members of the media, we take the next round of questions. We are going to do 3 rounds of questions. So there's a penultimate one. So let's hear from you. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, my name is Emmanuel Bruce. I'm from Reuters. At the last MPC, the governor indicated that they were in discussion with some banks with regards to the proposed hedging program. I wanted to find out updates on that. If what specific quantities of the country's oil or gold is being considered for this hedging program, and when is it likely to take off? And also, somewhere in June, the chief executive of Cocoa Board indicated that they were in discussions with the central bank to allow the banks to use a portion of their cash reserves to support our local LBCs. I want to find out what is the status of that engagement. Is this something the central bank is open to? Thank you.
Right. Who next? Yes, Justice. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Governor. My name is Justice. I write for Shinwa News Agency. I would like to congratulate you and your team for your very successful first year in office. But having said that, they said the devil is in the detail. What are some of the, worries you have about the economy, although everything seems to be going on well? What are some of your headaches, lingering headaches, as we enter into a new year? And also, just to ask, is Bank of Ghana financing the gold board? Thank you.
Governor,
Next question, please. Yes.
good afternoon. My name is Morris with GTV. So average lending rate is at 22%. Will you say is a perfect reflection of pushing for interest rates to go down further?
Right. Thank you, Mr.
Can you say that again? I lost you somehow.
I said that average lending rate around 22%. Is it a true reflection from where you sit of the successive cuts that you've done the whole of the year?
Last one first. Average lending rates. Of course, I am on record to have said that by the end of my tenure, I would want to see lending rates at 10%. I've said it. I still stand by it. We are doing everything we can to make sure we achieve that by the end of our tenure. So average lending rates at 21% may not be the best. It may not be exactly what we intended by this time. But so far, if you look at the data, it shows that a lot of progress has been made. You are looking at a movement from around 32% down to 21% currently. The banks have what they call the reference rate, the general reference rate. Some of them are even lending below that currently. And gradually, as interest on T-bills and others continue to trend down, banks will have no choice than to do aggressive lending. So that is where you see a faster decline in terms of the lending rate going forward. So rest assured, it is one of the things I particularly want to be, assessed by the end of my tenure, to see lending rates, as low as it can. That will support growth, and that will also support job creation. Then the next one, Adobwe, you were asking whether I have any worries going into next year. Well, I don't have any worries, but it remains that we are basically another commodity exporting country. Remember, what do we export? 3 items: oil, cocoa, gold. And most of it we export as primary products. When you are a country like that, you are always exposed to external shocks. If the US dollar strengthens for any reason, and if anything happens there that has nothing to do with Ghana, and the dollar strengthens, that would have, a very significant impact on us down here. And so my worry is that we tackle some of these, call them vulnerabilities. We are doing our part by building adequate reserves. That's one of the things you can do. But I would want to see more of structural, programs. And I see some of that in the budget, which is very good. Can we do more and more processing, right? More value addition, to the items that we export. Talking about oil, can we process, some more of that ourselves? Talking about gold, can we process some more of that? There are some gold refineries that have been set up. Can we get them, to be very active? And then cocoa. I was mentioning to Matilda the other day, for me, that is one thing I would want to see. If we are able to add more value, as we've always known, that will address our vulnerabilities, and that will help. Cocoa Board stops banks from lending to LBC, so long as it's within, the regulatory thresholds, the single obligor limits and others. Banks are free there. We could use part of bank CRR, which are helping, with the central bank, whether that could be used. I think that was the kind of idea he was professing. That has to be discussed, because you see, that CRR by the MPC is one of the things we deliberated. But so far, no such consideration is on the table. But rest assured that banks are free to lend to LBCs in any way they want to lend, so long as it is within the SOL limits. And that's the position, current abilities as we see them. However, the approach for now is to rebalance our portfolios, and that is what we are actively doing now. We have different components of our portfolio. We are rebalancing those ones. And so we are sure once we rebalance properly, there may be less of a need, for hedging. We haven't completely abandoned it. We are only doing them in addition. Because remember, hedging is not cheap. It can be costly as well. So yes, we will look at that later on. Toma, no.
Gold board, whether the bank is
financing the gold board. So remember, vis-a-vis the gold board, it's just like the relationship we had with PMMC. What we do is to ask gold board to purchase something for us, and then that something is exported. When it's exported, we receive the US dollar. So it's not as though we are funding them. It is a service they are producing for us. And come to think of it, we take money from the commercial banks, right? From the commercial banks. And that is exactly what we pass on to the gold board, which they use to, acquire the Dory gold. It is exported. We take custody of the FX, and then the same FX is intermediated. So it is not as some people are putting it. In any case, remember, we are under the fund program. We are still under the fund program. The zero financing condition we are holding, very, very strictly. There's been no violations If there was any violation, the IMF would have raised, concerns immediately. So we are not funding the Gold Board. They are, providing a service for us. And I'm sure that explains the question.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, all of you, for your diligent questions. Now, as I said, we are having 3 rounds of questions. So this is going to be the last round of questions for this 127th MPC press briefing. Before we do the last round, let me announce to all of you that the management of the bank invited 4 journalists from 4 different regions to this particular MPC meeting. And they are from the Central Region, Northern Region, Bono Region, and Bono East Region. Kindly give us a wave. Yes, so they are joining the MPC for the very first time. And this is the sort of transparency and the sort of all-inclusive approach to monetary policy reporting to improve our transmission mechanism. So we expect, Mr. Governor, they've also been part of our training programs. And all those here are also the GGA presidents at their local chapter.
Very good.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome all of you. And we go to the last round of questions. And again, let's be very, yes, please go along. Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, Governor. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Echo. I correspond for Bloomberg. Governor, having achieved your midterm inflation targets ahead of time, do you see an opportunity to review downwards your next midterm target to maybe 6 plus or minus 2? My other issue has to do with I foresee another round of industry-wide recapitalization, given the anticipated expansion in the economy and coupled with a rebasing that would even make the economy become bigger. And on the back of the fact that the 400 million capitalization is just about $35 million, I guess so. Do you think that is feasible moving forward? Thanks.
All right, my name is Adnan Adams. I work for Economy Times. I just want to know, with regards to the good purchase program, what will be the targets for NDA as we are looking at to purchase? And looking at the market, do we anticipate gold price falling anytime soon within probably beginning of next year, or still we should expect surge in gold price? If so, are we to sell more of our goods to strengthen the city more?
Yes, who next?
The name of this guy.
Yes, Mozart.
Thank you. Yeah, the name is Mozart from Bloomberg. Governor, I would like to know, you indicated that the majority of the committee members decided to cut 350 basis points. I would like to know what was the decision of the rest of the members. They asked for more cuts or a smaller cut? Secondly, recently we received a statement from the central bank basically saying the bank is going to be more proactive in the way it addresses volatilities on the market. Can we, linked with this, can we know, for instance, how much in terms of foreign exchange you've spent to support the market between January and October, and how does that compare to a year ago? Thank you.
Right, so I would take the very last question. Governor, am I allowed to?
Yes.
So the very last question to conclude this round of the MPC.
Okay, so my name is Belinda Anankwanta with Weezer TV. Now, I want to ask the governor that despite the fall in lending rate, private sector credit growth is still moderate. What more can be done to accelerate credit expansion?
Thank you very much.
Okay, so before I answer the last set of questions, let me announce that because we receive questions from some of you, anytime, people filing questions here and there, we are going to be putting these out, right, later on. We'll put some of those together, and the head of communications will put it out there. so that you can get feedbacks to your questions even before MPC. That's exactly what the committee has done by assessing the risks in the outlook, adjusting the policy rate. That goes to support credit expansion, because then, as I explained, banks will have no choice than to rebalance their portfolios. And we see that trend creeping in. The data suggests that private sector credit growth is beginning to pick up. We expect that to go up. My only concern is that banks need to also work on their risk management frameworks. Otherwise, the problems that we had in the banking sector recently that led to the sector cleanup, etc., could re-emerge when there's a credit expansion, which we don't want. So we've been cautioning banks, even as you rebuild your credit portfolios, look at your risk management system, make sure that you dot the I's, you cross the T's. That's the only way we can sustain the growth in private sector credit. Then there was a question on the FX we spent to support the market. As I've explained, our objective is not to intervene per se. The first preference is to accumulate reserves. Second preference is to intermediate these as they come in. I spoke about the gold dowry export, the FX that comes in, we intermediate those. Those that we don't need, we put into reserves. Or in exceptional circumstances, when we need to come in due to some lumpy payments and what have you, then there's limited use of our own reserves. That data, I believe, is in the data pack, Head of Financial Markets. That's in the data pack, right? So you can take any period, Moses, you can calculate it for yourself. Just look at the net international reserves figure at maybe when we came into office, March, right? End of March. Take the figure again as at end of last month or so. Deduct it, and it gives you a fair share. You get a fair idea of what has gone on. Then last year you can do the same thing. You get a sense of what has gone on. But my answer is that we don't just intervene, right? There is a deliberate program. And we have put out recently an announcement explaining the framework for our FX activity. That notice is on our website. You can go download it, read for yourself. You'll get a very good understanding of the framework that we have in place. Then there was a question, recapitalization, potential recapitalization. So basically, there are ways to ensure that banks are carrying the right amount of capital at any time. All right. So it's not just minimum capital levels. And that's what we call the internal capital adequacy assessment, programs. There are various ways BSD is able to assess that. And we will ensure that every bank carries at any time adequate capital that is consistent with their risk profiles. And let me also add that banks that are, we gave them up to the end of December on the recapitalization program. That is the banks that were under PCA. We are working with them. Government has been working very actively to make sure that the deadline is met. We are optimistic that quite a good number of those banks will meet the recapitalization, by the end of December. And after that, we'll do an assessment. If there are any bank or one or two that do not meet it, we will look at what we can do for them to come up. But rest assured, whatever it is, at any time, we will make sure that banks carry enough capital that is in line with their risk profiles. Then the next one is about the inflation, the medium-term target, whether we want to change it. But it is too early in the view of the committee. The committee discussed this. We think that inflation has just settled comfortably around the central target. We need to monitor the process a little bit, the disinflation process a little bit. for a couple more MPC rounds. And when we are convinced that we really have reset, that we are actually now settling, the economy is settling onto a low inflation regime, and there's the need. Remember from the beginning, in somewhere 2002, when we started the inflation targeting regime, we first had to estimate the optimal level of inflation, and that's how come the target was derived. So we will do that exercise again, and if the empirical evidence suggests that we lower it to a new band, that will be done. But for now, the committee thinks that it's pretty too early. We should hold on a little bit and observe. Then I think that is all, right? That is all for that
You
round.
missed one.
Any target for the gold purchase program?
Any target for?
Yes, for the gold purchase program. For the end year gold. Yes.
No, we don't have a target. Yes, we don't have a target. Remember, we use that for our reserves build-up, and so we will embark on that. And as I explained, we use that to intermediate, to manage the entire framework, and so that will go on. I hope that explains it.
And the last one is majority went for 350.
What did the minority go for?
Some members, I'm not sure I'm allowed to disclose, but rest assured, we publish the submissions by members, and those will be published when? By when?
It's on Monday.
Or by Monday.
Yes.
The details of those submissions will all be published so that you understand what went into the decisions. But it was a very, very lively process. It was a lot of arguments. You have no idea how much, deliberations it took us to arrive at this majority decision. But we are convinced, the committee is convinced that this is appropriate for the policy stance currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, members of the MPC. Thank you, advisors of the Bank of Ghana, senior management of the bank. And a very big thank you to all of you. You made it a very lively event. This is the last one of the year. And we'll be seeking the government's permission to see whether we can have a much more social engagement, what you call your press worry, sometime at the end of the year. So, Governor, I'm not preempting anything. We'll still come for approval. So thank you, all of you, and have a very Merry Christmas. So we all rise for the governor and the members of the MPC to leave, and we join them later. Thank you.